Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, today is Monday, so I've only seen a few comments, but there's already been quite a lot about the rear brake drum, which we'll have a look at in a minute and do some measurements and things like that. Today is actually Memorial Day here in the US, so it's the equivalent of a bank holiday at home. And if you're wondering what this is doing here, this is a story. I have my first trowel, which is a sort of special one. It's a friend of mine who's been involved in trowels for over 50 years. He's the person who, when they've had the couple of world rounds here at Watkins Glen, he's been the clerk of course. And this year would be 50 years of putting on trowels on his own land. So there's a special trowel, weekend after next. So I had to get the BSA put together. So Saturday I came out, I painted it last week, the frame, because you may remember I had to do some repairs where Jensen had a slight altercation with a tree. So I came out Saturday morning, all going to be done. So I bring the frame and swinging out the paint room, and I missed bits. I was annoyed, but I thought, okay, take it back in the paint room, touch up those parts. Sunday I can rebuild it. So did the paint, thought, okay, while that's curing, I'll do the engine, because I'd taken the top half of the engine off to check the barrel and piston and what have you from the 300 conversion. Everything, by the way, would look perfect. So I started rebuilding that. Now, up to the top of the cylinder, this is a 71 B25. The head is from the earlier sort of, if you like, C25, TR25W, which is interchangeable. But the head and rocker box go together because for some reason, although the head's the same and everything's fine, they changed the bolt pattern very slightly. I mean, it's the same pattern, the dimensions very slightly. So there are two different rocker box gaskets. I have 5 rocker box gaskets for the later engine and none for this one. So I thought, damn, foiled again. Let's go and have lunch, and when I come back, I'll do the wheel, front wheel of the bike, of the Otter. Come back, start to get that ready, and I find I've got the wrong size nipples. They should be the 250 thou, quarter-inch nipples, and the ones I've got are 236 thou. So not only are they slightly loose in the actual hole, in the dimple, but of course the head is smaller. So I was so annoyed by then, I was really tempted to just go ahead and build it up, and I thought, no, I won't. So anyway, then I went changing the needle roller bearings in the swinging arm. So I knew I had 2, got them out, put one in, got the other box, it's empty. So all in all, the weekend was a complete disaster. So that's why it's still stuck here. I can put the oil tank and a few other things on, which I will do today. But of course, being, as I say, bank holiday, I can't phone up to get a new bearing and what have you, and a gasket. So I have to do that and tell them to FedEx it, just swallow the cost and FedEx it, or I'm not going to get it in time for the trial. So that's that. Alright, now obviously the spokes put me back, or the nipples put me back to do the front wheel, and this bloody hub is putting me back for doing the back wheel. So this week what we're going to do is a couple of little bits of stuff I think I can do on the frame, but we'll start on the engine. We'll get the new valve guides put in the head. I've still actually got the rocker box to take apart and bead blast and stuff like that. So we'll just work on what we can and keep going from there. So let's have a look at this rear hub. Right, well, now most of the comments were the same as my view. They'd never seen anything like this. They didn't think it looked like wear, or, well, one chap mentioned that it'd been used with too narrow a pair of brake shoes. But you know, I don't really see that, because they wouldn't fit onto the well, maybe they would. Anyway, who knows what it is. But one comment from, sorry, forgot your name again. Was it Whale Song? Might have been Whale Song 669 or whatever. Had several TS250s, and he used to be a Japanese bike mechanic, and he said definitely not like that. His TS250s did not have this. So what are we going to do? Well, let me see if I can get that so you can see it. It says in there that the maximum diameter is 150.7. I've just measured it, and it's 150. So that would only give me 0.7 of a millimeter, and I don't think I've got it. Now, I can only think of two ways to do this. One is to replace the actual liner, which is cast iron. That's a lot of work, and I'd have to try and find a piece of cast iron tube, because the last thing I want to do is buy a piece of cast iron round that's that big and turn out all the centre of it. It would just be expensive, it would be time consuming. I just don't want to do it. The other thing is to turn this to get rid of the two shoulders, and then I've got the original brake shoes. I could reline the brake shoes with thicker linings. Right? That, I think, is the way to go. Either that, or see if I can find a pair of brake shoes which are just slightly bigger. That might take some doing. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go the brake shoe route, because that's got to be right. That's got to be the easiest way to do it. So all I'm going to do is, as I say, turn these shoulders off, and then we can at least build the wheel, get to rolling chassis while I sort out something for the brake shoes. And I mean, if the worst came to the worst, I could always take the wheel apart later on and put a new liner in. But I'm sure I must be able to get this sorted with different brake shoes. So we'll put this in the lathe and we'll machine this. One person mentioned, might have been Whale Song again, RL250. Hang on a second. No, I have an RL250 parts book. I've just looked in that. It's not an RL250 hub. Okay, so let's go and see about setting this up and turning it. Now, with everything being so worn, it's been virtually impossible to find a decent face to run this on. But I've got it in towards the back on the piece of the brake drum that seems to be unworn. So it's that back ridge, but it looks pretty good. And I've got it to, these are half thou, I've got it to slightly less than 2 thou. That, I think, I've been fiddling around for a while. That's as good as we're going to get it. So let me put a bore, well, I've got a boring bar in ready. Let's see what we can do with that. Well, I just had a thought and ran it on the inside of the bearing, and I've got it to within 1 thou. But I also cleaned up a little bit of this edge, and you know what, I'm not even sure if I've got enough drum to take this back, so keep your fingers crossed. My head in the way there. just feeding. Did I just say I'm just feeding this by hand? Because I am. I'll show you one more pass and then I'll just finish this off. Right, let me finish it off. There it is, cleaned out to literally just scrape the rust off. Don't forget 150.7 is the max with the brake, standard brake shoes. $152, 152.53. So we definitely got to find some bigger brake shoes, some thicker ones, but at least now I can build up the wheel. It won't hold us up too long. Alright, next thing. Right, I've put the brake shoes on the brake plate. There's the piece we put on the other day. So, let's see what happens here. Well, quite a long way. Let's see how far it goes. So the brake goes on. Goes to there. Okay. That goes to there. Actually, I've seen cams go out further than that. But I think if I can find some, these will do for the moment. If I can find some thicker brake pad material, brake lining material, I will just redo the old ones with the new stuff. Okay, I can lace up that wheel. We're good for that. Right, well, I spoke too soon again. Here are the spokes I took out of the wheels. Rear wheel, front wheel. Now, as you can see, front wheel here, the spokes are right. But as soon as I took the bags out for the back wheels, I noticed something. The back wheel, the two spoke rims are different diameter. So here's the spokes, you see, there's inners and outers. You can see that actually what I always talk about, the different shape of the head. See, that one is an inner because it's going to point to the hub, point to the rim from the inside of the hub. But that one, which is on the outer, has sort of got to go round the lip of the hub to point to the rim. So there, that angle. So I've got 6 1/4 and 6 5/8. 6 1/4, 6 5/8 inners and outers. Two different lengths, which is right for two different flanges. Here I am, they give me the right head angles, but as you can see, I've got 36 spokes, all the same length, 6 1/4 inches. So I can't do the back wheel. I've got to phone them up and ask them what's the story here. Alright, I take it we'd better start on the engine. Right then, the cylinder head is in the oven warming up so we can drift the valve guides out, and we've got our inlet rocker box here. Also, I've spoken to Buchanan's, and when they checked about these spokes for the rear rim,
it's been a bit of a complete balls up, because the young lad found that what they'd actually done was sent me a rim and spokes for a front wheel. So the rim's no good. The holes are drilled at completely the wrong angles. So they're rushing them to me, a new rim and spokes, and a sort of return thing for UPS so I can send it back without me having to pay. Because the annoying thing is that it's going to be another coated rim, so I'll have to set to and get it polished up. Alright, so this is just like the BSA one basically. The only difference is that the BSA ones you've seen, generally they'll have the feed on one end, where that nut is, hang on. Yeah, where that nut is would be a banjo. But these actually, as you know, the banjo goes on there. So the feed is in this centre part. So even though this is a 69, that's still Whitworth. So we'll loosen that off and we'll leave the nut on so we can... Yeah, it's moving. I thought I might have to heat it up, but it's moving. So we'll get that going. See it coming out this end. Okay, so this is just again like the BSA ones. There's going to be a thrust washer, and at this end a thrust washer and a spring, just to keep everything right. So let's the last little bit we'll use a bit of wood or something just to oh, I'll tell you what, hold on a second. Right, well I've actually given it a little bit of a warm up, and I've made a small, just turned up a quick small punch for that. Make it small enough by the looks of it. Here you can see it's come out the other end, and we should be able, now that it's warmed up, to pull that out. There you go, see? There it comes. Right, let that cool down. So now it's cooled down, we can just press out. There's the spring going clink. As I say, there's one thrust washer, and at this end a spring and another thrust washer. And there's exactly the same as that end rocker, and one stuck to the end. Two thrust washers. Alright, I'll clean these up, I'll degrease this, and then we'll bead blast it, and you'll be able to see before and after. And there we are, before and after. There's the inlet one we've just done, there's the exhaust still to be done. And that beautiful finish that round glass bead gives you. Alright, the cylinder head should be warm enough now, so let's do that, and then I'll just do that, you don't need to see that. Right, this should be hot enough, I think. Yes. One. God, this is hot. What I'm going to do is knock these out and then just put it back in the oven to warm it up again. Be careful actually, because after a while even the drift gets hot. And of course, please remember to knock them through from this side, not the other side, because they won't come through. Oh, That one came off easily. Let's hope it's not worn. We don't want to have to wait while we order oversized guides. Plus getting stuck. It'll come out easily. Right, as I say, I'm going to go and put this back in the oven, warm it up. There's the guide, and there's a little groove there, you see, with a clip in. And that's why you've got to drive them out from this end, because they won't go in that way. Well, here's the thing. None of these guides have their clips on them. And they're not in there. So, did somebody put them in without putting the little circlip on? They're definitely not in there. I don't think. I've just tried them with a little magnet. There's no pull at all. So there's no steel there. Well, fancy that. Right, let me put it back in the oven. So this is heated up again. And of course the valve guides going from the opposite side to the way we knocked them out. Right, knock them in till you hear the metallic sound of it, the blow going all the way through the head. And you'll notice as well, I'm not hitting them down here, it's just a tap. Right, we'll let that cool down, and then it's a trip to steam shops for him to recut the valve seats with the new valves. Right, I'm going to do the gear cluster next, because we can take it all off this. I can clean this piece up and then we just put it back together and put it to one side. So first thing I noticed, see this, it's got a lock washer on, it's punched 3 times as well. God knows why. Did I move you out of shot? No, I thought not. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I hope the road noise isn't too much, but I've got to have the door open. And I didn't want to not do anything. Okay, let's have a look. Pair of pliers. Get this split pin out. I would normally have levered on that. I need a bit of something to put. Just a bit of something to put there to pull that out. Hold on. Right. Well, that's straightened out. It's probably rusted in there. See if I can knock it out with a punch. Hold on again. The reason I've got to have the doors open is I'm dealing with the people who are here dismantling that horrible trailer. So we're backwards and... Oh, that's it. No, it's not. Backwards and forwards, I was meaning to say there. There it goes. You watch, we'll get that out and the punch won't come out. Right, now then, take that out of there. So that should come off there. Of course, it would help if I took that out the top, wouldn't it? That should just come out now. That's what that split pin was for. There it comes. There we go. Now you're shaping, Michael. Out as they come out, if we can. Okay. See, that kickstart mechanism is internal like the C15 one was. Where have we done with the cloth? There too. Right, so I better just put a little drill in each of them. We'll give it one quick buzz with the what's it, whose name of course I've forgotten, but you all know what I'm talking about. Oops, much too small. No. Is this going to be a modern thread or... Yeah, I think it is. What's that, 1 inch, something like that? Bum, bum, bum. You still with me, everybody? No, we're not going to risk that. Let me, well, if we've moved, no they haven't. Let me have a go with the drill on these. Right, I've drilled into all three, should be just enough to break out what was there. There we go. Just clean those edges up with a little triangular file later on. Now then, of course that's pulled my little cloth into the teeth. There we go. That and that. Wow. I'm saying wow, I'm going to show you something in a minute. More bits I'll have to buy. That's a bit damaged, but there's a needle roller bearing in there that's come apart. I don't know if you can see the ends of the needles. The cage has just come to bits. So we're not going to be putting that back together too quickly. Right, now to get this bearing out, there's a retaining clip there. You know, these, the little springs disappeared. I have to keep jumping up to make sure you're still in shot here. And sorry about the traffic noise. This actually is all I'm going to get done today. I've been doing other things, so nearly. It's just coming out then. Hey. There it goes, somewhere. Alright, I'll heat this up, get that bearing out, and then I'll get all this cleaned up. And then I'll see you tomorrow. Right, well, I've cleaned this up, bead-blasted it and bead-blasted that as well. Now you remember, when we took this apart, that the little ratchet thing that goes in there fell out? Well, it's actually threaded. And the bolt that holds it in is of course the stop for the kickstart spring. Well, the thread in this, as it turns out, is 1/4 inch UNC. But I noticed when I took it out that the bolt didn't come all the way through, and I thought at first, oh, I wonder if that fell out because it had sheared. But I picked it up and, you know, everything's fine. So then I went to screw the bolt out, and a 7/16 wouldn't fit it, and a Whitworth wouldn't fit it, but a 10mm one did. And when I checked it with the thread pitch gauge, this is a 7 by, what's the standard 7mm thread? 7 by 1? So I have no idea why somebody just jammed that in the hole so the kickstart spring would go on it. So I've got to get a new sort of pillar bolt thing, and I could put a little bit of stainless weld on that because stainless is a bit harder, and reform it. I might just buy a new one. If I've got to wait for the bolt to come, I might as well buy a new one. So there you go, 7mm bolt in there. Okay, now what can we do? So I think we'll finish off the week getting the crank ready. So we're going to take the con rods off for two reasons. One, because we're going to do the sludge trap and we can't clear it through with con rods on. And the other thing is, these con rods have a bronze bush, which is about 17.5mm internal diameter. The gudgeon pin / wrist pin for the KZ 1000 piston is 17mm. So I'm going to have to heat these rods up, get those bushes out, and then make up two new bushes for the smaller pin. So let me get the bits and pieces ready, and we'll take these con rods off, and then we have the fun job of getting that plug out and getting the tube out, because unlike the BSA singles where you've seen me clear out this sludge trap, there's actually a tube inside there, and you've got to get the tube out to clean everything out. And I saw a clever way of doing this a few years ago, actually I think on YouTube, and it works great, so I will show you that. Let me get what we need. Right, now then, that is well chewed up, which is why the new plug I've got for it has an Allen in it. But first of all, anyway, let's take these off. That's sure I got it there. That's all right. Okay, that's them. Ooh. It's stiff. Let's get a little bit of leverage onto them. Very light, just to there's such a close parallel that they've got to come off just right. You can see they're sliding up nicely, but they've got to go sort of a bit at each time. Come on now. Be a good boy. Now I actually have, I think, a pair of shells for these. Depends. There was no play in these, so that as long as they're not scored, they'll go back on. I don't really want to have to get the crank reground. We're putting enough into this thing as it is. There we go. Now they should be marked so they go on the same way. Can't remember that I ordered new bolts for these, but that's one off. That looks fine. So do they. Okay, let me get the other one off. Well, I've put this in the vise in the alloy jaws there, and I'm not holding out much hope of getting this thing out. There's very little of the slot left, so we'll see what we can do. I don't know if I can get this. Yes, I can just. Whoa! I don't believe that. It's actually come out. Oh, will you look at that? Huh. Alright, now then, let's get the tube out. Now the idea is we're going to run a tap down into this. I could have sworn I used a pipe thread one before, but let's see if this works. Hang on, let me go and get the torch. I think the reason that came out so easily was because somebody's already cleaned this out. As I say, all along it was almost as if the engine had been worked on and then just put loosely back together to so as not to lose all the bits. Well, there's no sludge in there. I'll give that a wash out. It'll be fine. Well, I deserve a bit of luck after the week I've had. So I'll wash all that out, blow it out, and we can put that to one side. And then we've got to look at doing these small end bushes, which I think I better get myself a couple of pistons and make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so let me show you something. Right, so it's been cleaned out, but I'll show you how to get this out. First thing I'm going to do is this flywheel bolt actually goes down into the tube and sort of locks it in place, so you'll never get it out unless you take this out. Okay, see, it's got a little nose on it that fits in there. Now then, there's all sorts of things I've seen about getting this out, but what I saw was, what have I done with it? Actually using a tap. Now in fact this is a 1/2 inch course, so you screw that into there to get a thread. And out it comes. Simple as that. Don't think that's supposed to squish that as much as that. I wonder if there should be a washer on that. So the idea is, you see, the oil comes in, there's a little hole here, so the oil goes in there, comes up through there, the hole is just in front of this wider part. It goes down out there, and that goes to the 2 journals, and then the sludge goes to the end. So again, same thing, slowly it would fill up and block these holes off, and then the oil wouldn't get to where it's supposed to be. Right, so there's that out. And that is definitely it for this week, but I do have something to, as I said, I do have something to show you. So let's look at that and then we're done. I'm back again. I was just putting the camera away and my mind was going back to the last 650 engine I did, and it suddenly struck me, I know why that's like that. In the first set of instructions I read about getting this tube out, it said you just take this out and then you poke a bent rod up and you stick it in that hole and pull it out, which never works. But it suddenly struck me, the reason that hole is there is for that little nub to go in. That's what locks it. So whoever put this in didn't make sure they put it in right so that the bolt locked it. Alright? So there, that saved all of you trying fellas from writing comments. So I will buy a new tube, because it can't be that expensive, famous last words, and then we'll take it from there. So now I really am going to show you something. Now when I was rummaging around in the scrap looking for the spokes for the back wheel to check the length, I of course came across the spokes on the front wheel, some of which I'd cut out and still had the nipples on. And I measured the nipples, just out of interest, and they were the 236 thou ones. So I thought, okay, if that's what was in it, that's what we'll put back in. So I set to, and I built this up a wheel. So here's the front wheel done. Already go by. Sorry about the road noise the other day, but couldn't be helped. Anyway, security bolt, or as it's called here, a rim lock. A nice new IRC Trials tyre, which I like. So there we go. That's that. Now because we've got the front wheel done, I think what we'll do next week is put the new oil seals in the forks, because that put the forks in the frame, put the front wheel in. I believe the new rear rim and spokes are already on their way, so in no time at all I might have a back wheel, so we can put the swinging arm in, put the rear suspension units on, put the back wheel in, get ourselves a rolling chassis, put the handlebars on and start to look at things like that while I continue working on the engine. So until then, you all stay safe and enjoy yourselves.